We're here for the Boombox Mix Contest giveaway. We're about to mix the track by Selwyn, Suddenly Forever. They did a great job. It's a great track. I'm really happy that Boombox invited me to mix this and have it available for you guys here on the YouTubes. Let's dive right in. I did a little bit of mixing already, and now I took it to the studio and we're going to use a combination of plugins and hardware to finalize this track. So let's get going. First things first is I'm going to do the boring stuff. I'm very much into the manual side of things. I'll show you how I got the vocal. It's a very dynamic vocal, and one thing that I want to do in a mix is really control that vocal. And I can hear you say, okay, so you slap 5 compressors on there. You can. That's not my style. So what I did yesterday was clip gain everything down. So I'm flipping through the unleveled version as I got it from Selwyn and Tommy Theo, the producer. And then you can see I leveled everything out. So this is already very much leveled out. I do that all by hand before it hits the compressor, because what happens then is that it very evenly hits the compression and I get the same amount of compression every time. If we take a look into what the difference is on this 1176 with and without manual clip gaining, which looks like this. So the original vocal is very dynamic, and now it's much more evened out. We can actually tell that it might be doing a lot less gain reduction.
And suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody.
So that's around 2 or 3 dB. Now let's go to the unleveled one.
And suddenly forever feels too short to be.
We can immediately tell that it's doing way more gain reduction unleveled. And it's really trying to get those louder parts of that vocal to tuck down so we get a more consistent vocal. And then over here in the first verse, where the vocal is way quieter,
I know it's hard for you believing,
it does way less gain reduction. So I actually want to level those things out so I get an equal amount of gain reduction throughout the entire track. And then I do the very tedious and boring job of manual de-essing. Yes, I also put a de-esser on there just to see if it works. If I can take the shortcut, I'm going there. But it does not work enough, so I need to dig into those S's a little bit more.
Those pretty eyes can be deceiving.
So what we can do is we go to Audio Suite over here. We go to my good friend, the Pro Q3. We hit this audition thing, and then we find the nastiness. We just bring it down. There's some more nasty stuff. We bring that down as well. And then, well, maybe take it down a dB.5. Render. And now it renders this EQ move I just did on that S. And then it sounds way more natural, hopefully.
Pretty eyes can be deceiving.
Okay, so what else do we have besides the vocal? We've got a piano over here. That piano was also pretty dynamic. If I duplicate that playlist and I say, okay, this is unleveled, I can have a look at that, and then you can see that this was the piano. Now, I do want to keep those dynamics in there, so I'm now going to crush them down with a compressor. I am just going to slightly minimize those dynamics. We don't want a lifeless block. We do want to have the difference between lower levels and higher levels, but we just want to pull them together a little bit more.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime. And suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody who loves me like you do. When I close my eyes, When I close my eyes, I still see you.
Hearing that, I can really tell that the piano and the vocal already make up like 80% of the song by themselves. So those are going to need to shine the most, and then the rest we're going to build around this. I've got drums over here, a separate kick, and a bass.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime. And suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody.
These are all the effects that the producer already has sent to me. I'm just leveling those out and sometimes adding an SSL channel to them to compress them a little bit, to take out some high end, some low end, take out a little bit of over here 290 hertz for example, and 200 hertz and down is going down a little bit, and 4 kilohertz, just to make that vocal shine a little bit more and bring it more to the front, but not do anything too drastic. He already did a lot of automation on those parts, so I do not want to get my ego in the way and feel the need to redo his reverb. Recreating reverbs that someone else did is the easiest road to do 7 revisions on a mix, and I think he did a great job. Then I've got a bunch of backing vocals, dubs, choirs, harmonies, vocal buses that all make up the rest and fill everything in and really wrap around that lead vocal.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime. And suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody who loves me like you do. When I close my eyes.
If we look at this adapter, Metric AB, this is my favorite plugin to reference with other tracks and really see what the spectrum is doing, how the correlation is going, the stereo image, what my loudness is doing versus their loudness, and also to sync it up and exactly AB with their demo or rough mix. So let's hear what they had and where we are at now. Okay, so if we listen to their mix, it already sounds really, really good and really loud. It is, to my taste, it is a little bit squashed. I like that they're more focused on the low end and that the bass really wraps around everything, and I want to see if we can get that more in our mix. But it is squashing it a bit in the final limiting stages to my ears, and I kind of want to see if we can get the same result and maybe have it equally loud, but then make it breathe a little bit more while having that low end. So we've got a little bit of work cut out for us, which is exactly why I wanted to get you on board at this stage and not give you a finalized and approved mix and then say, hey, this is what I did. I want to bring you into the world of how are we ever going to make that happen. So the first thing I want to do is see if we can get that vocal a little bit warmer and more forgiving by using outboard gear. So we're going out of the RME right now, and then we're going into this 1073. I have 3.2K bumped up, and I've got this, and then the low end I'm leaving alone for now. From the Neve 1073, we're going into the CL1B, and maybe you can also include the massive passive. Let's dial in some stuff. We already have a pretty spanking CL1B compression, which might work on this track.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime. And suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody who loves me like you do.
I think I'm more of a fan of the manual attack and release. So I tried it on fixed, but it was just slamming a little bit too much. So I'm going for a medium slow attack and then a fast-ish release. I put it on manual over here. I'm doing a 4:1 ratio and I think about 5 dB of gain reduction. Then I'm just going to see if we can get a little bit more room for that vocal if we use a Trackspacer plugin on the piano. So bus 24 over here, and then I'm just going to send this out to that yes, and let's check Trackspacer.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime.
This line here, the first line is already 20 dB down. So yeah, you just really want to see that line dance a little bit, but definitely not as much as I had it just now.
'Cause when I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime. And suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody who loves me like you do.
What this does is that it gives me a little bit more room for that vocal wherever it needs it. So if there's no vocal or if it just sings in a high register, that piano can just do whatever it needs to do. And at the points where it clashes most, it will take out some of the piano to leave room for that vocal. And that way my vocal can have more room, take up more of that space, and have more body without us needing to actually push up some frequencies. I think there's something that I need to do about that bass, because they had a lot of low end weight in there, and I might need to be able to match that. Adding some 30 Hertz-ish on the pull tack and then attenuating as well, so we can emphasize that boost on the low end even more, and adding some 3K to get those high mids out there as well. I'm using the Magi Q as well to give me a little bit of a more broad and clean boost on that low end too. And then I've got a parallel bass track as well. I just duplicated the bass. I do not want to mess with auxes and everything if it's just one track. So I'm driving the decapitator a little bit on the end setting, which is a Neve setting, is a bit more fuzzy, and then the micro shift is adding some chorus. Together with the real bass. Let's check out the kick. This SSL has 32 channels. Every channel is 40 years old, and yes, they have been recently recapped and they're great and everything, but with individual channels you get a different EQ setting, different components, and the difference between left and right equals width. So we're getting width if we're distributing a mono source through 2 channels. What we don't want from a kick drum is width. We don't want that to have different low end on the left and the right. We want that mono and punchy and in the middle. So I'm going to put a down mixer on there, so I just have one channel going to one channel on the SSL, and I can just do the one channel processing. So we keep everything tight and in the middle. I'm putting the EQP1A after this and the transient designer as well, because I still want to be able to manipulate all of that. So we see that the overload light comes on. That's what we want, because we want to drive that desk, want to drive those line inputs and really get that sound of the desk. How does that compare to this? I think that works better. Okay, so now because we are messing with the kick, which is probably eating up the most of our headroom, I kind of want to see what my clippers and everything are doing. So I've got gold clip here on the pre-master. Yeah, I'm shaving off some of the peaks, so let's see how much I'm shaving off now.
I close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime, and suddenly forever feels too short.
We can see now on the standard clip, it's actually not the kicks that are going over, it's some of the piano things and everything. If we deal with that, we can dig in a little bit deeper and get the track louder. So by pushing up that line gain on the SSL, we actually take down that transient and we push everything up, and that way we can make the track go louder. What I'm going to do is, because we still have that headroom, I'm going to push it a little bit further into the headroom. So I've added a little bit of low end to the Mach EQ. I've added a little bit of those sub frequencies, and instead of the 40 Hertz, I'm adding some 160 just to add some size to that bass sound. Let's see, if I take the ceiling down 1 dB, I can maybe do 2 dB even. Yeah, let's see what that does.
Close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime, and suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody.
Now you can see that this limiter does a lot less. So I'm shaving off the peaks with that. So this was on 5. So let's see how much this limiter does when this is on ceiling of -5.
Close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime.
See, that's doing up to 2 dB of compression, limiting. So if I take this down to -6.5.
Close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime.
It does a lot less, which means we can push this up by, well, let's do a dB to start with.
Close my eyes, I see us together.
And then we've got one more Pro L2.
Close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime.
And then maybe.
Close my eyes, I see us together for a whole lifetime, and suddenly forever feels too short to be with somebody who loves me like you do. When I close my eyes, when I close my eyes, I still see.
Alright, I think that is it for now. I know I have not shown you every single thing for now. Boombox, thank you for giving me the opportunity to run through this mix and give away this mix and do this together. Thanks, guys. That's it for me. I'll see you on the next one. Later.